Do you all remember when liberals went nuts when they found out that George W. Bush, when he was a candidate for the presidency, was a member of Skull and Bones? Remember Skull and Bones? It's that Yale University super mysterious club that was founded in 1832. It's really creepy. Well, it turns out that according to an informant, anti-Trump FBI investigator Peter Strzok and his gal pal FBI lawyer Lisa Page spoke in text messages about a secret society within the FBI itself that would convene apparently off-site, presumably, I don't know, to discuss things like insurance policies and other benevolent matters involving Donald Trump. Well, Senator Ron Johnson today was flabbergasted at what he learned.
What this is all about is further evidence of corruption, more than bias, but corruption at the highest levels of the FBI and that secret society. We have an informant that's talking about a group that were holding secret meetings off-site. There's so much smoke here. There's so much suspicion. Are there similar individuals, highly biased, political operatives, burrowed into the Department of Justice as well?
Well, you combine this with the suddenly missing 5 months of texts between the two lovebirds, and you do have a full-blown corruption scandal on your hands involving the very people who were leading the investigation into both Mrs. Clinton's private email server and the Russia collusion nonsense involving Trump. I have a question. How are heads not already rolling just knowing what we know now? Well, on my radio show this morning, former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGeneva, he made the case that this all indicates that we need a big change of leadership at the FBI and at the Justice Department.
It's quite apparent that Christopher Wray is not up to the job of being FBI director, that he is undermining its credibility, not strengthening it, and that he is completely controlled by the upper bureaucracy at the FBI. The other real problem is Rod Rosenstein. And I don't think there is any doubt whatsoever that Rosenstein is too close to Comey, too close to Mueller, too close to Wray, and too close to a whole bunch of people. Jeff Sessions seems to have decided that if he can have a little bit of fun within the goal, within the boundaries of the playing field and not get anybody mad at him, that's going to be enough to get the job done.
It was ugly. It was brutal. And I have to say, the American public has a right to know what, if any, crimes or other improprieties were committed by members of the Obama administration and members of the current FBI. But I have to tell you, the bleeding, this has got to stop now. And the DOJ and the FBI, they have to be purged of anyone actively working to undermine the Trump administration with a political agenda, of course, and be purged of anyone who refused to remove those or report those committing this type of wrongdoing, who's serving from the government. They shouldn't be serving the government at all. And I'm not talking, just don't transfer them to another office. They must be fired. And now, on to Schumer's revenge. There were brief moments in the lead up to the government shutdown last week when Chuck Schumer seemed to be coming to his senses on maybe the issue of the wall. Well, here he was on Friday.
In exchange for strong DACA protections, I reluctantly put the border wall on the table for discussion. Even that was not enough to entice the president to finish the deal.
Now it's been announced that Huckster Chuck is taking border wall funding off the table and in immigration policy negotiations. Has this man totally lost his mind? I mean, he just had his political clock cleaned for this ridiculous government shutdown that got him nothing. And now he's going to take away the one immigration must-have for Republicans in the White House? I don't think so. Oh, and as for the moronic Flake Graham Durbin bill that Trump nixed last week, and that all led, remember, to Schumer shutting down the government in that big hissy fit?
2 weeks ago, we outlined a path forward on 4 issues: serious border security, an end to chain migration, the cancellation of the outdated and unsafe visa lottery, and a permanent solution to DACA. Unfortunately, the Flake-Graham-Durbin Agreement does not meet these benchmarks. In fact, it would not secure our border, encourage more illegal immigration, increase chain migration, and retain the visa lottery system. In short, it's totally unacceptable to the president and should be declared dead on arrival.
Oh, I love hearing dead on arrival when it comes to a bad immigration bill. Building the border wall was not just the president's signature campaign issue. It's what the American people want. Remember that new Harvard-Harris poll we told you about last night? A lot of people haven't focused on this. It showed that 61% of those surveyed feel border security today is inadequate. 54% of respondents want a wall or other barrier built across the U.S.-Mexican border. Couldn't be clearer. And while Americans do want to help the DACA people, I guess, and give some kind of protection to them, they don't want to be left defenseless to do it. That makes sense. Look, Chuck Schumer is under enormous pressure these days. A host of left-wing interest groups are insisting that he resist the president and fight him on everything, including immigration. Now, why are they doing this? Because they want to see the dawn of a new governing majority, and it's coming across the border. In the spring of next year, we're going to talk about this later on with Coulter, California will begin automatically registering any adult who obtains or renews a driver's license to vote in the state. Now, California has been granting driver's licenses to illegals since 2015. Fox News estimates that 1 million illegal immigrants already have secured a license to drive in the Golden State. This was by the end of last year. So now turning them into instant voters is sure to change the outcome of any election. Well, now it's a supermajority in that state for Democrats, but still, that is shocking. And speaking of these issues that the president and so many of us, and I know so many of you really care about, you hear a lot about chain migration, but I thought it was really important for you to understand what it is, how it transforms the country, and why it must end. Also part of the Trump must-haves on immigration. This is a White House graphic that we share with you exclusively tonight. You can see it. For every hour, the U.S. settles enough migrants to fill a small auditorium. That's really small print, isn't it? Every day, enough to fill a large high school. Every month, we resettle enough to fill an entire football stadium to capacity. Every year, an immigrant population larger than the size of Washington, D.C. Every year, we resettle 174,000 parents of foreign-born naturalized citizens. Now, remember, most of those are older, elderly. They're not going to be paying into a lot of taxes. They're going to be taking a lot of services, though. Now, they're paying basically nothing into the system. Once they're naturalized, they immediately qualify for all the welfare programs, benefits. So basically, you pay for their retirement. That's a nice deal if you can get it. And all of this probably, why? Well, in that Harvard-Harris poll, 65 to 35% of Americans support a DACA deal that ends chain migration, eliminates the visa lottery, and secures the border wall. 79% of the people in the same poll want immigration based on merit, not family ties. So 79% agree with the president. It's time for the Democrats to start putting the hopes and dreams of the American people first. It is now crystal clear that Schumer and the Democrats are going to run over the American worker and risk their safety, if that's what it takes, to tilt local and national elections in their favor. And that's the angle.